All right. Should be speeding everywhere.
Yep.
Speeding here, speeding there. Top 10 now.
Snick and Mud's top 100 games. But does anyone care what they have to say? Let's. I know I don't. Cause they may dab, they might scream, they may say some things that are plain wrong. Dab on it, dab on it. But they are dumb bing bongs. My teacher's better.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We are the Brothers Smurf, and it's time to continue on this journey of 100 games that we like. Everything that's below this 100 is trash.
Yeah.
Until we do a video about it, which
And
point,
then
please
fine.
watch that because those games are great.
Indeed. Yeah, so this is me 30 to 21. This is getting high. This is getting
We're getting
like,
into some, like, again, we keep saying this, but we're getting into some, like, all-timers now.
Yeah,
We're getting
of
into
course.
some, like, this is the heat right here.
It's gonna be good.
Heat, Pelts, Lamel, Days of Wonder.
So indeed, it's good. Check out Days of Wonder.
It's not on our list, but yeah, it's okay.
We're sponsored by Days of Wonder. We're not
That'd be
at
great.
all. Asmodee, hit us up.
Hit us up. You know what else you can hit up is the donate button
There
that's
you
right
go.
over here because we are partnering with Tabletop Alliance for
We
this top
are.
100. We're trying to raise money for kids. Tabletop Alliance it works with schools and teachers, helping get board games into the classroom, into after-school programs and things like that.
Yeah, it's
Please
super
check out
cool.
Tabletop Alliance. There is info in the description. There's a video where you talk about them a little bit more.
Indeed.
But they could use your money. Money
And they
is
can use your
good.
games. You can donate your games. You can donate
If you're
money.
a teacher, you can get involved and get those games sent to you.
Super, super cool. So check out Tabletop Alliance. Again, if you got a couple extra bucks, please donate them over there.
Please.
We're trying to reach 2,000, but let's blow that one out of the water. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into our 30 to 21. Oof. My number 30, I thought would be around here on Mike's list, and it was not. And this was Rajas the Ganges, the Dice Charmers.
I made a mistake.
People were upset that this was this
People
low,
have
considering
not,
how much you
not
talk
let
about
me
this.
live that down.
They
I
sure
love this
haven't.
game. I don't know what happened, y'all.
It was
I
in
don't know.
Mike's like 90s. It was very high. I was very surprised at how high this was. We love Rajas the Ganges. We love Rajas the Ganges, the Dice Charmer.
It's great.
Here's the thing. We always keep talking about which one do we like more. Well, neither of us has talked about Rajas the Ganges yet. So I think we like this one slightly less. But nonetheless, Rajas the Ganges, the Dice Charmers is the dice roll and write version of Rajas the Ganges. It feels very, very similar to Rajas the Ganges, which is a game where you are building out your estate. You're essentially trying to get money and trying to get fame. It's kind of like one of the first games, at least that I saw, that did essentially two scoring
dual track
and your
situation.
goal is to cross those tracks. So now, like Ark Nova is a very popular game that does
Stole
that.
It, Thieves.
Stole It, Thieves. And Rajas the Ganges has that as well. So you have worker placement, you're putting workers out, and then you have these big chunk, dumb chunk dice.
Dumb chunk, thicky icky
So
ickies.
unnecessary thicky ickies in this game. I mean,
And
real
really
talk.
colorful and nice.
Yeah, like I mean,
Screen
it's one of the
printed.
prettiest games. I'm sorry. I was
Oh,
starting.
you're
to
thinking,
describe.
yeah. Oh, I see. You're
I was
talking
now
about
describing
Rajas
Rajas
the
the
Ganges. But the Dice Charmers also has
good ones.
thicky chunk dice.
Indeed. So in Rajas the Ganges, the Dice Charmers, you're doing a lot of the same stuff in Rajas the Ganges, where you're getting like different goods, selling those goods, going down a river, building out your estate. But it's all done
Rajas
through
stuff.
dice, where you roll the dice, and then the first player gets drafted dice, other players draft dice, and then everyone's going to end up having 2 dice. And it's really, really good because it feels a lot like Rajas the Ganges, but it's definitely like a different game. And it does what we really, really love in most games, but particularly in roll and writes, which is just like dumb combos.
Man.
Combos on combos. You get this thing, you make it to this part of your estate. Oh, that allows you to do this action now. Now I can do this. Oh, now I can sell this, and that's giving me this action. And now I can, and you just put together these crazy chains.
Yeah.
And then it feels like a quicker, easier, lighter version of Rajas the Ganges.
Yeah, but
and
it gives you a lot of like flavor of Rajas of the Ganges.
it's so
in a
much
quicker
fun.
package.
It's such a good roll and write. We were instantly interested in this one because we were like, Rajas Ganges we love. The roll and write version we're at least super interested in, and it absolutely blew it out of the water. It blew us out of the water. It was so, so good. Rajas Ganges the Dice Charmer is my number 30. It's super, super good. Mike basically didn't even have it on the list.
Oh
So
man, I don't know what happened. I made a mistake. I've made several mistakes. Number 30 is not a mistake though. You know why? Because it's Quadropolis.
Ooh.
Quadropolis, a little city building.
very high for you. Wow, okay, cool.
Man,
it's so good.
It's this weird game where like in between plays of it, I like forget how much I like it,
Yeah,
and
how
I
good it
play
is.
it, and so I'm like constantly like re-wowed by it. It's a city building tile placement game. So this was early in our days. We got Quadropolis. We'd already had Suburbia and stuff, and this kind of fit right in with the, you know, the adjacency of your tiles matters because you're trying to plan a like sensible city.
Yeah, makes sense.
And this one's kind of more, a little more like streamlined
Oh, yeah, it's
and
a
a
lot
little
lighter.
more, a little more abstracted and stuff. But the thing that's really cool is the kind of drafting of tiles system. You have these contractor tiles, these little arrows with numbers 1 through 4 in the basic version. The game is 1 through 5 in the advanced, which I recommend you play.
After the first game, play the advanced.
Yeah. And when you place, there's a central board that has all the tiles you can possibly draft. And when you place your little architect on the top or wherever edge of the kind of area you want to draft, you have is 2, you're going to go to the second tile in from that edge, and that's the tile you get.
Yeah.
And then you kind of move this little city planner around. So there's a little bit of like blocking people out from being able to just hit the same row over and over again. So there's kind of like a little bit of like spatial interest with like, how do I get the tile that I really need? And then also the value of that architect also dictates where I can place this tile.
In your city, yeah.
So if I go 2 in and I take that tile, in my city there is a row and a column that both pertain to 2, and they have to go into either that row or the column somewhere where there is a 2 or a 3 if you use the 3 and so on. So there's all this kind of intrigue with that, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to get some like residential buildings out. Yeah. That's another way you could use your 2. If I already have a 1 tile out and I'm building the second floor, I could use a 2 for that. So that's kind of like an extra layer and build up these little high rises for myself. There's parks you can place, there's stores, there's harbors where you can, get your kind of main hit of your imports or whatever. And it's, again, kind of all abstracted. But harbors want to be put into a line. Residential buildings, you want to build them as high up as they can be. Stores, you got to have customers. There's these like really cool semi-translucent acrylic meeples,
really
and so
good.
they need to go in the store. The more meeples you have in a store, the more valuable it is. But that store also needs to be powered. So you need to have tiles that generate power to put in your city. So there's just all these like little things.
Yeah, none of which are difficult.
None of which are difficult. And that's what's so great about it. It's like it's not overly complex or obtuse.
And city buildings can get that way because cities are complicated.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's like, they're very
complicated.
And apparently people were saying in the comments when I talked about Quadropolis a while ago, but people were saying that Meadow has the same action selection
that
system, which
makes
makes me
we've
really want to
already
play
been
Meadow.
excited for that game, so I'm like really excited because I think that drafting mechanism,
I think it's so
where there's
good.
a little bit of spatial puzzle of like how do I get this tile is really interesting. So Quadropolis is my number 30. It's city building, kind of like pure and simple, really good.
Yeah.
The advanced side to play is great, but you can play the basic to get people into it. Really great game, great production by Days of Wonder we talked about.
Indeed. All right, it's number 30, so let's get into 29.
My number 29 might be the most infinitely playable game, one of them. It's Cascadia.
Oh, yeah.
Cascadia, again, tile laying goodness. If we like something, it's probably going to be tile laying.
It's playable.
And worker placement and bumping tracks and stuff. This is a simple tile laying game where you are, on a turn, going to draft a paired set of a tile and an animal token with best syllable arts, very beautiful. And you're going to add this little hexagonal tile to your ever-growing little parade of tiles.
Yeah.
The thing we like about this game is you can place your tile anywhere. If you can make the landscapes like mountain touching mountain make sense, you at the end of the game might be rewarded for having a large area of a contiguous landscape type, but you can also just place it however, so long as it's adjacent to something that's been placed before.
Yeah.
That's the main rule. The other thing you have is that animal token. All the tiles on your little tableau that you build will have one or more animals showing on it.
That they can house on that.
That they can house on them, yeah. So if I get a salmon, for example, I can place a salmon token on any of my tiles, not the one that I just placed or anything, any of my tiles that show a salmon on it. And this is where the kind of game comes together because, yes, you're trying to build those big areas of landscapes, but you're also trying to do specific things with the groupings of animals that you have on your board, in your little habitat. Things like the salmon want to be in a run, so they can be in kind of a wavy line, but they want to all be connected. Your elk might want to be in certain size groups. Your hawks might all want to be a certain amount of space away because there are all these predators and things. So you want to get, based on the scoring condition of each of those animals, and of which there are many types, you want to try to lay out everything so the landscape kind of makes the most sense. The animals there are kind of placed in the most ideal groupings possible. And that's really all you're doing. You're going to draft like 20 tiles, and it's always going to come paired with an animal token. And like that's the game. And so it's really simple because it's just like place a tile.
Yeah, you can play with anybody.
Draft a tile, place it, and place your token. Done. That's your turn. You can play with anybody, but it's kind of sneakily puzzly because again, you're trying to think of those landscapes. And you're like, oh, I kind of broke this up. It could have, that marshland could have extended over here or whatever. So there's fun things to explore, but it's, in terms of rules overhead, so simple.
Yeah.
And unlike a Calico where you're locked into a certain amount of space, which can become very kind of oppressive as the game goes, Cascadia doesn't have those limitations, so it's just a little bit
Which is why I like
easier.
Cascadia more. I like Calico a lot, but it gets
Cascadia leaves you more satisfied, I think. So
the limited part of Calico makes me like it less.
Yeah, so that's Cascadia number 29. I think I will play that game over and over and over again. Yeah. It's just very pleasant
stick around for a very,
and
very
puzzly, tiling goodness. Yeah,
it's super good. My number 29 is a game that we finally played. It had been on our shelf of shame for a very long time. This is A Search for Planet X.
Oh yeah.
And this is a game that
swept you off your feet.
It really has. This is a deduction game where you are trying to find the mysterious Planet X in our solar system here. And you're trying to find Planet X. You don't know where it is. The board is broken up into these different sectors. And
kind of like areas of the observable sky.
Indeed. And each of these sectors will have something in it. Well, for the most part, there's 2 sectors that are empty. Truly empty, but they will have something in it. Like they could have a comet in it, or an asteroid, or a dwarf planet, or like a gas cloud, or something like that.
Yeah.
There's all this stuff that could be in there, and then you essentially have to deduce what is where. And you do that through the various rules in the game. So like asteroids always have to be next to at least one other asteroid. There will be 4, there's always gonna be 4, and they can never just be on their own. So if you find an asteroid, you know that there has to be an asteroid next to it.
At least one.
At least one. And then, and so you can find that comets will only be in these very specific sectors. Gas clouds have to be next to an open, empty area. So there's all these rules about how the stuff works. Right. And then like the dwarf planet cannot be next to Planet X. And then the game is run through an app, and you will essentially ask the app questions. The question, you're looking through the different sectors of the board. You say like, from this sector to this sector, are there any comets? And then the app will tell you there's one comet within this sector.
Yeah,
and then you go, okay, well, it can't be here because comets can only be in these specific spots, so I know it can't be here. And so you're just deducing where it is, and then eventually you can find Planet X. I really, really like this game. People talk about how good the deduction is in this game. I will say that I only play this game solo. I only have any interest in ever playing this game solo. I do not want to play this game competitively because I'm frankly not very good at deduction games. I don't like playing deduction games competitively because frankly I just lose all the time. And it just makes me feel really dumb because honestly I'm just not good at them. I enjoy them, but it's just not really how my brain works. My brain does not work in that puzzle riddle kind of way. It's one of the same reason why I don't like escape room games is because they just make me feel dumb. I like deduction, like in Turing Machine or in Search Planet X, but I want to play it on my own because then I don't have any pressure. I can just take as much time as I want because I enjoy the puzzle of finding it, but I do not enjoy the race aspect of deduction games.
Yeah, for you, just solving the puzzle is the actual juicy bit.
Yes, I don't care about the race. I don't care if I win. I just want to play it on my own because then there's not that pressure to like, because there's the good thing about the competitive game of Search Planet X, there is this whole other meta game where, because you can essentially put in theories of where you think stuff is, and those theories will eventually get shown. And if you're correct, everyone now knows, oh, I didn't know there was a comet there. Now I do. So there is this whole meta game of like, you don't want to reveal too much information, but you need to confirm stuff. And I'm like, that's really, really cool for people who want that. I do not want that. I just want to play with this puzzle on my own. I love Search Planet X. I think it's incredible, but I only ever want to play it solo.
And if you solo it, you do go against a bot that is also, and what I think is really cool, they also do not know the answer.
No,
they are searching for it, and you're trying to race against the bot.
Yes.
But there's not like there's not the mind game aspect.
Where someone's like, I know where it is, and I'm like, I only have found 2 things, you know? And so like, I do really like Search Planet X. I think it's incredible. The solo is really, really good. Yeah. It's just so freaking good. It's just so good. I play it all the time at home.
Yeah, it's so fun.
All right, that's number 29. Let's get to
28.
Ooh. Number 28 for me is, I'm not gonna lie, is based more on potential right now than it is in actual enjoyment of the game. Although I do really, really, really like the game. And this is Marvel United.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really high up. Really high up. First of all, I love Marvel United. I think it's one of the best co-op systems. It's so simple. It works so really easy. Well. You can teach this to new players. So this is such a good way to get people into the hobby because it's Marvel. It's got really cool minis. It's so simple. It feels very, very truly like cooperative.
Yeah.
And it's just
you're literally chaining your cards together as a team.
It's so good. And there's so much stuff for it. I really, really love Marvel United. Marvel United is a game where it's a co-op game where everyone's going to have a certain hero like Captain America, Iron Man, Wasp, Black Widow, whoever. And you're Frank from the deli.
He's a walking hot dog.
Hey, superheroes got to eat. Frank's got
Eat of mine flesh. It's a dark character.
He's a really
I like
weird guy.
Anyway.
But nonetheless, and then you're going against some kind of big villain, some mastermind kind of villain. The base game is like Taskmaster, Red Skull, and then Ultron.
Ultron, yeah.
And all of them work differently. All the characters work differently, although they're mostly very similar.
They'll have like a set of cards that like everyone sort of has, and then a couple of like really
Special
uniquely
stuff, like a Hulk smash kind of card, yeah. But the villains are very different. They work very, very differently, and the way you beat them will kind of depend on what they do. So like Taskmaster, for example, is not very strong, but is really, really hard to hit. Like you have to do all this stuff before you can even, but then they only have like 2 health once you get to that point, but it's really hard to get to that point. Whereas Ultron is making like copies of himself all over the place that you have to get rid of. And so the villains really change up the game a lot.
Yeah.
And I really like Marvel United a lot. I'm so excited to teach this to new people, to bring it out. But the reason why I say it's more about potential is because I like Marvel United a lot. I don't know if it's honestly my 28th favorite game right now, but what elevates it to here is because I'm so excited for the potential of it because there's so many characters.
Yeah.
We're kind of collecting it slowly. We didn't back the Kickstarter. It's one of my few Kickstarter regrets because you were able to get so many characters.
Yeah, and for you, there's a whole other level to this game of interest.
There's some of my favorite minis ever in a game.
Yeah.
And I don't like chibi minis. And yet these minis
they're so fun.
they're so freaking
and so
good.
if we collect all of it, Nick
I
can
just wanna
basically
paint it.
paint for the rest of his life.
It's one of those things where like I would buy this game just to paint it. I
Yeah,
like the
I
minis
think it's
that
totally
much.
worth it.
So there's like all these levels, but the difference between this game and other big Kickstarters to me is this game is like 30 minutes long.
Yep.
We have gotten way before we even did content. Now we really don't have time to play these big campaign games. But even before we started doing content, we had like all the zombie side stuff, and there's so much extra stuff.
There's so many special
We'll
characters.
never get to play it because that game is like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours long. And so I'm always like, I want all this extra stuff in a game that actually can get to the table. And Marvel United, for us at least, is gonna be that game. It's like we have friends who have played through, they backed all in and they have played through everything because they can be like, oh, let's play a game. Okay, let's play another game, except for switch out the villain, everyone play a different hero, and they will play through everything relatively quickly because the game is short.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so excited to continue collecting it, continue painting it, continue playing it, seeing how the villains differ because they do really, really change the game.
Yeah, the villains are more impactful in the game than the heroes by quite a bit.
Oh, by a lot, yeah.
That's really the crux of the game.
I don't know. I'm just over the moon with this game right now, and it's like the potential probably brought it up to, frankly, probably not where it actually should be in terms of how much I enjoy the game itself.
That's where it is today.
But I really, really like it. I love Marvel United. It's my 28. Go for it.
I do think it's hard to beat in terms of a co-op that has a lot of appeal.
Yeah.
My number 28 is another co-op game. It's a co-op trick-taking game called The Crew, specifically Mission Deep Sea. Either is fine, but Mission Deep Sea is the better version.
It's a better game.
Just jump right to that one. They're functionally the same, but this one just scales better.
Yeah.
So this is a cooperative trick-taking game where I guess you're doing like deep sea experiments. Who cares about that? The point is you're getting specific tasks that are really varied depending on your mission and the kind of difficulty level of that mission. There's gonna be tasks that get kind of doled out to different players, and it might be that specifically all you gotta do, Nick, you gotta collect the pink 7.
That's it.
He has to get the pink 7. I cannot collect any rockets. This person over here has to win specifically 3 tricks or whatever it might be, and then you're doing kind of standard trick-taking stuff. So, of course, where the fun comes in with trick-taking in general, and specifically in cooperative, is that we, of course, cannot talk about what's in our hands. We can say, I feel fairly confident I could win this task.
Yeah, because you can say...
You can give vibes.
I'll take this one. I can do this one.
Yeah, and that's about it and stuff. And then you go around, and what you're doing, which is what's really fun with trick-taking that we always talk about, is there's basically a secondary language at the table. There's a hidden language based on the cards you're playing.
Yeah.
Mike
doesn't have any pinks.
You played
Okay,
a green,
that's
I
good
threw
enough.
off on a blue. We all know I have no green.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we do with that? If I'm trying to avoid 8s and 9s, okay, let me keep playing green, so if Mike has any 8s and 9s, he can throw off and ditch those and not win the trick.
You need the green 1, and we know Mike doesn't have any greens. So we're like, okay, so now we have to make sure Mike gets the green 1.
He's got to lead, because if he plays a blue and everyone else plays a different color, he will be the default winner, so that's how I can get, there's all these things that come in that trick-taking, whether it be spades or hearts or many other kind of iterations that are kind of more board gamey, I'll say. There's always that language that gets spoken about. What am I communicating by what I'm playing? The Crew does that in a really beautiful way, and it's nice that it's a cooperative game. So if in between rounds we lost the mission or won the mission, we can break it down and say, like, this is what I was trying to say by playing that. And so if someone doesn't have that vocabulary, hopefully this helps develop that language of trick-taking, because it's such a fun thing, and that's why there's always new trick-taking games with little twists on things, because it's fun to play with that stuff and figure out how to communicate, and the crew just does a really good job. Mission Deep Sea does a really great thing with, depending on your player count, the difficulty will kind of scale based on the mission cards. If it's a 2-player, this mission would be harder, so now it's a 4 level versus a 3 level. So it just takes care of the player count a little bit better.
The way the tasks work better,
and it's just really kind of infinitely playable. The crew is so fun, really simple trick taking, but really encourages learning trick taking, which is fantastic. So that's my number 28.
It's very good.
It's so good.
All right, number 28. Let's get into 27.
I think 27 might be the most clever game or unique or something of all time. This is Tzolk'in.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Tzolk'in, I don't know.
The mechanism for how it works is very cool.
Certainly in terms of pairing a gimmick with like functionality and like robust mechanisms, there's no better game.
No.
Tzolk'in is a worker placement game where you are putting workers, you can do one of two things on a turn. You can either put some workers onto various gears on the board, or you can take one or more workers off of gears on the board to use their actions. Those are your options on the turn.
Rules-wise, pretty dang simple.
Yeah, but then it's also incredibly crunchy. But yeah, what you do is either put some stuff on the gears or take some stuff off. You have to do one of those two things. If you don't have any workers, guess what? You're taking something off the gears because you can't place anything on. And where this game comes down to is the timing of everything. It plays with the idea of time, because there's this central, the kind of like Mayan calendar, in the middle will rotate every round, which means everyone has played one turn. It'll rotate, and then it'll cause all the gears that your workers are on to rotate one spot clockwise.
Yeah.
And the longer you stay on a gear, the further down that gear a worker travels, the more powerful the actions become.
Yeah.
So it's really all about how and when do I place workers onto gears? How long do I wait? Do I pull them all off at once? Do I put them all on at once, which costs a lot of corn and stuff? So you have to, there's a resource, kind of, it's pretty tight resource-wise. It's very tight resource-wise.
Yeah.
How do you ultimately get your resources, get your workers and stuff to be able to build buildings and monuments, work your way up 3 temple tracks and things like that? But that simple act of the timing of everything, of how long do you let them stay on the merry-go-round, the balance of putting people on gears, pulling workers off of gears and all of that, and then the technologies you can develop. I'm like, I just don't know, like, how do you think of that? Yeah. And then make a cool gimmick with all these plastic gears that actually really works really well. And I'm like, that is amazing. So the fact that it's not just like a toy, but it actually facilitates like a really thinky puzzle with a really kind of tight resource game is just so cool. That's why it's so high, because I'm like, dang, I don't know how...
You hit the nail on the head, like matching a gimmick to like being integral to the gameplay. No game does it better. We talked about Potion Explosion earlier about that. And it's like, or rather a Potion, I think during my shelf I was talking about that.
But the kind of toy factor, but it also functions.
But it makes sense for the game. And you need it for the game. This game, like you said, does it better than anything else though.
Yeah, so it's my number 27, Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar.
It's wild.
It's really, really neat.
Yeah. My number 27 is a game that we've had for a long time at this point. It was one of kind of the first games, and one of the first games, this honestly I could say is the first game where I was like, oh, like, there's like themes in board games. And this is Dungeon Pets.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's always themes. We've played Pandemic. Pandemic obviously has a theme, but the theme is there, and I think Pandemic's theme is like finely integrated, but it's not like crazy. But Dungeon Pets is a game where you are pet shop owners in the world of Dungeon Lords, which is a CGE game. And in this game, though, you are raising these little monster pets, and the Dungeon Lords are coming into town, and you're trying to sell them to the Dungeon Lords. They're coming into town looking for a pet. You want them to take your pet.
Kind of putting on showcases for them to show how cool this pet is.
And this game is so thematic. Every single thing you're doing in the game matters for raising your pets.
Yeah.
Your pets have different needs, and so you're getting these need cards, and sometimes you think you know what your pet's going to need, but it turns out they don't actually need that. You thought they were going to need a ton of food, but instead they want to play a ton. And so you're like, oh gosh, I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah, that kind of represents you learning the pet's habits.
And so you're getting these pets, and the pets will have certain needs. Some will be very like aggressive, so you have to have them in a pen that has like spikes in it to keep them inside. Some are very magical pets, so you need to have like a magical cage so they can't break out, because you don't want them to break out, because then you have to send someone to go get them. They're gonna get injured. You have to go to the hospital, pick up your Uncle Frank. And so it's like all this different stuff going on. They're gonna need food. They're gonna be pooping a ton, but you can't have too much poop in their cage, because then they get sick. If they get sick, they get really, really sad, and they get really bummed out. No one wants a bummed out pet. And like all the pets are different. They all need different stuff. They're all super, super cute.
Yeah, really cool art.
And it's just this game where you're sending out your little workers, your little imp workers in these groups, and you're going around to the main board, and you're just getting stuff. You can get new cages. You can get food. You can get add-ons to your cages to make them better. You can get new pets. And everything you're doing makes sense and works thematically like perfectly. Every single time, as Mike said, there's gonna be like some kind of showcase where you're showing off your pets and you want to win. So you can go there and like bribe the judges to get like ahead. And it's just
that part.
And you have the dungeon lords coming through, so you know who's gonna come through. Like, okay, they're gonna want a really aggressive pet. So I'm gonna like kind of raise this one to be super aggressive, because that's what they're gonna want. And it just works. This is a game, when I first started watching board game content, well before we started doing board game content, I saw Rado's review of Dungeon Pets. It was one of the first board game videos I'd ever seen.
Yep.
And I immediately was just like, holy crap, I did not know that this world existed. Not talking about the Dungeon Pets world, the world of like thematic board games.
Right, and where the thematics, all the thematic elements are intuitive to like they make sense.
Yes, in
they're
terms
not just
of what you're doing.
there. It's like, well, you do have to feed your monster, and they might need to play. So there's this little thing that has a playground on it. So it's just like it's very intuitive.
Every thought of it, every
sense.
tiny bit of it is thought out for the theme. Yeah, and on top of that, but on top of it being really cute, it's really crunchy. It's a heavy game.
Yeah,
it's just so good. We got this game way before we were able to handle it like game wise and
yeah,
stuff.
A little early.
We've had it forever. I will never get rid of it. I love Dungeon Pets. I think it's so good. It's definitely dropped down. I mean, it's still my top 30, so it's not hasn't dropped down too much. But like, it'll probably continue to drop down. But I will always have such a huge place in my heart for Dungeon Pets, because it's kind of opened my eyes to like, oh, this is what board games can be. And now here we are, you know. And so
cool.
Dungeon Pets number 27.
That's a good pick right there. Those are 27s. Let's hop into 26.
Just going to keep waxing poetic about all these games.
Do it.
We're getting into the good ones. We're getting good. So now my favorite of the West Kingdom games is Architects of the West Kingdom.
Respect.
It is my 26.
Respect.
I feel like I'm probably the minority on that one. Most people like Paladins or Viscounts the most. I like Architects the most. I like all three of them quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so, but I really, really like Architects of the West Kingdom. Architects of the West Kingdom, despite all the West Kingdom games being the same theme, they're all very, very different.
Yeah.
And this one is a worker placement game, but really what it is, it's a worker investment game, which is a mechanic that I wish more games would use, because I think it's interesting. Yeah. And basically what this is, you can place a worker down like in the quarry and you'll get some stone. Great. But then that worker stays there. None of the spots are blocked for the most part. There's a couple spots that are blocked. But you go there, and then next turn, or on a later turn, you can put a second worker there, and now you're gonna get 2 stone. And then you can put a third worker there later. Now you'll get like 3 stone, and now you can get like 2 stone and a gold or something like that. So you're essentially investing in these different spots, but we're all against each other. I don't want Mike's spot to get too powerful, so I can like just call the local militia and just like round up a bunch of people and then send them off to jail, because for-profit prisons are a thing in this game.
It's a loose critique of the American prison system.
Exactly.
Which, it's so, just like, at any point, just round up people and toss them in
jail for a quick coin. But now and then you have to like go get them out and stuff like that. But I really, really like the worker investment part of this game. And then of course there's townsfolk like there are in every single Garfield game. And you can get them and they do different stuff. And you're essentially trying to build up different parts of the cathedral and stuff like that. And you're trying to build
various buildings.
Various buildings which can give you points, end game points, instant stuff. A lot of like normal Garfield games stuff that you can expect is in this game. Yeah. But I really, really love that worker investment. I just think it's so much fun to be like, oh my gosh, I have 3 here. I really want to put a 4th there, but I know if I put a 4th there, someone's going to take those people. So do I go here first and like get some of my own people back first? And so there's a lot of like that kind of meta being like, ooh, I was going to do this, but then Mary just put down a 4th person there. Should I go grab that? Or should I? No, I don't think so. Because you don't want someone to go somewhere over and they can get really, really powerful. Yeah. I just think it's really outstanding. I've always loved Architects. I like it the most of the West Kingdom games. They're all, again, pretty close. They're all really, really good.
They're all so fun.
But I love Architects of West Kingdom. It's got the Miko art. The board is so pretty and like lush. It's really good. The expansions are really cool as well. And Architects West Kingdom has always just been my favorite of the three. And so I really love Architects West Kingdom. My number 26.
Nice.
Hit it, my man.
My number 26 is a Mancala style game by Brooks and Katooks. Bruno Catala. This is 5 Tribes, bro. Five Tribes. 5 Tribes is a action selection game, I suppose, where
in a weird way it is, kind of, right?
Where on your turn, there's all these tiles that are laid out on a board, and they all depict kind of different actions. And you are going to, on your turn, choose, there's meeples all over all these tiles. You're going to choose one group of choose a tile, pick up all the meeples from that tile.
Yeah.
And then what you're going to do is you're going to kind of choose a little route for yourself, moving orthogonally around. And every spot you go to, you'll drop off one meeple until you eventually have one left that you drop onto a final tile. The rules for that are going to be that final tile, you have to drop a meeple, whatever color you have. Say you have green, there has to be at least one of that color on that tile in order for it to be legal placement. You drop that down, whatever color you put on the last spot, you pick up all the meeples of that color, which is going to give you an action to do based on the color of the meeple. And then you'll also get to use the action of the tile itself. So you get to do basically 2 little actions back to back when you do this. The different color meeples all work differently. The green meeples, for example, will help you collect these cards from this kind of merchant row. And it's sort of simple set collection. You want to have as many different types of goods as possible to build a big giant set of varying goods. You can work on multiple sets, of course. And then there's these fakirs, which might help you with your djinns and stuff and power up certain other aspects of the game. You can pick up blue meeples, which will just immediately score points multiplied by the meeples in your hand, multiplied by the amount of blue tiles that are surrounding in the 9 spaces around the tile that you picked up meeples from. So that's just like an instant hit of points. There are red meeples, which allow you to assassinate another meeple. You can collect the elders or the white meeples, which you can collect for points or use to spend and gain djinns, which have all these game-breaking powers. There's these viziers, the orange ones, which are just kind of like set collection for the end of the game, all sorts of stuff. And then the tiles are going to facilitate all those kind of actions that are similar. Again, getting more things from the merchant row, getting those djinns, powering things up, placing out camels and palm trees, which if you then control that tile at the end of the game, you get a little more points.
Palaces and palm trees.
Sorry, palaces and palm trees, thank you. Your camels go down onto the tiles. If you manage to, when you pick up your meeples, completely empty that tile of all meeples, you get to then claim that, which will be worth some amount of points at the end of the game, plus maybe potential points if you have palaces or palm trees. All sorts of stuff like that.
That's a lot to think about.
The Mancala aspect where you pick up a group of workers and you have a billion directions you can go. It's like, where do you drop off? What color do you pick up? What action are you trying to do? There's just like...
Well, and however many meeples you pick up off that first one dictates how many spots you can drop.
Yeah, you have to go the full amount.
You're like, I really want to do this one, but it's 4 away.
How do I get to that spot?
I can't actually get there.
How do I get there with the right color? There's a lot of like puzzliness. I think for some people this game can be very analysis paralysis causing because if you're looking at this giant tableau of tiles and workers, these meeples, there's infinite possibilities for actions you can take. So for us, we're just good at I'm just going to choose and do this and do a thing.
Well, and the problem is you also can't plan because by the time it gets around to you in a 4-player game,
who knows what the board state looks like?
The board will look different. My solution is just don't have AP. Boom.
Don't have AP, get wrecked, nerds. 5 Tribes is really fun. It's one of those games, every time I play it, I'm like, God, this game is good, man. It's just so fun to try to figure out. Mancala is not used that often in games. There's definitely a handful now.
But there should be more.
It's just a cool way to go about it, and the fact that you get to do action from the tile, the color of meeple matters. There's a lot of juicy stuff. It's Bruno Catala's best 5 Tribes. My number 26.
Yeah, I didn't reach my top 100, but it's
so
really
good.
It's just outside. All right, that's 26, yeah?
Yep.
Let's get 25.
Number 25 rather, is a new one to us as of this year, and we played the kind of newer version that's still to come. This is La Granja.
Yeah, I talked about this last
La Granja, you talked about this last list and stuff. We really enjoyed it. This was one of those games
so good, dude. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is one of those games, you can play it on Board Game Arena, it's not the older version, but it's functionally the same. It's really kind of more aesthetically upgraded in the new one that Board and Dice is doing, the deluxe version. It has modules.
It does look very good.
Man, this game is so awesome. It's one of those ones where you're like,
there's a reason it got
it's a classic.
Version, right?
Can it live up to its hype? Is it really that good? When you finally play it and you're like, I I get why it's a classic. Yeah, it's really good.
It's so good.
This is a game where you're building out a farm, a granja as it is. You're building out a farm, and it has these quadruple use cards, where basically every side of the card functions differently, and you're only going to get to choose one of those functions. You're going to slot it in on your around your board. If you put it on the bottom of the board, you're going to use it for this kind of game-breaking power that it has.
It's like dual-use cards. Try quad-use cards, cowards.
Yeah. If you put it above your board...
Game designer, cowards.
How dare you. Get wrecked. If you put it above your board, it's going to be a contract that if you fulfill it by getting the right resources, you can then sell it to the town. There's a bit of like an area control thing in the middle. You sell it to the buildings around to kind of work on those aspects of the game. If you put it to the left of your board, you're going to make it to a field. If you put it to the right of your board, it's kind of like a board extension, which helps you during your income. You can put more pigs out and stuff. And from there, you're really gathering, generating resources, and fulfilling contracts. It's really the kind of meat of the game. And doing things out to kind of put your influence out onto the town in the middle of the board. That's you like kind of providing for the city from your farm. One thing I really love about this is the economy of pieces. Because you have these quad-use cards, you can put one to the right and it shows a little pig, and then we have these kind of generic little cylinders that you put down. If you put it down on a pig space, it's a pig. But you can take that same piece and put it over here. Now it's an olive. It's part of your harvestable fields. And I actually really enjoy that there's not a billion different pieces for things.
It's not necessary,
There's all these kind of phases to the round. There's like kind of worker placement elements and stuff. There's just a lot of really cool things that go on in this game.
And now there's all these modules and stuff too.
Oh my gosh. The module, we played with just one of them so far. There's a bunch, but they're really interesting. They modify the game in slight ways. The game remains the same generally. It's just so fun to build out and decide, like, where do I put my card? Which I have so many options. What's my current need? What's my future need? What am I working toward? How do I make this engine of the farm work to its maximum capacity? It's so fun. I cannot wait to explore it more. We'll get the deluxe version when it comes out, and then I just want to explore all those modules. I have guest designers like Stefan Feld and stuff. It's so fun. It deserves all the hype in the world. La Granja's my 25. It's great.
Alrighty. My number 25 now? Yeah, my number 25. My number 25 is my favorite trick-taking game. This is Claim.
Yeah.
I really like Claim.
So
Claim is a two-player trick-taking game. I just got to introduce to one of our best friends, Matthew Jude. He hasn't played it. He really liked it. He loves trick-taking games. Claim is a two-player only trick-taking game. And it's just really, really good. This is a game where you, the different suits are different factions of like fantasy people. So there's like dwarves and seers and doppelgangers and stuff like that. Normal trick taking where it's two players, so one person will lead, the other person has to follow suit if they're able to, and then whoever wins the trick wins that trick. But the game is broken up into two distinct halves. There's a first half of the game where you're just doing that, you're playing tricks, and there's a deck of cards, and then there is going to be one card face up. And basically for each trick, you're playing for the face-up card. And so whoever wins gets the face-up card, whoever loses that trick gets the card off the top of the deck. So what you're doing is you're going to play out all your cards, and then by the time you're done playing out all your cards, all of you will have the same amount of cards again. And then you play again, except for now you're playing for keeps. Now you're playing essentially for majority in each of the factions, in each of the suits. So at the end of the game, if I have more dwarves than Mike does, I now win the dwarves. So the second half of the game, whenever you win a trick, you get to keep those cards. And again, you're trying to get majorities. Whoever has the most majorities wins the game. So it's so interesting because the first half of the game is all about just setting yourself up for the second half of the game. And there's so much meta stuff where you don't always want to win, because if the face-up card is like a level 0 goblin, that's the worst card in the game, you're like, I don't want that. I'm going to try and lose because I'd rather get the one on top of the deck.
I can assume it'll be better.
It might be level 0 goblin, but it's probably going to be better than that. And so you don't always want to win. It's not always this thing of like, God always win, God always win, God always win. You can have a good hand just by going off the top of the deck. But then the really cool part about Claim, that already is interesting enough, in my opinion, could have been just the game.
Yeah.
But then all of the factions do stuff. Yeah. So the dwarves, specifically the second half of the game, whoever loses the trick gets the dwarves. So in that case, you want to lose tricks with dwarves in them because that's how you collect the dwarves. The doppelgangers can be any suit. They're doppelgangers. There are knights. Knights will always beat goblins. Even if it's a level 1 knight will beat a level 9 goblin. And there's all these different factions. And there's like Claim 2, which is its own base game, but you can just mix everything in.
Yep.
There's like Seers, and Seers you can look at the top card if you win the trick, and then choose which one you want to take. All this different stuff. And then there's like, I don't know, like 7 or 8 expansions, all of which have like new factions in them. Now they have like locations, which change the game even more. Right. They have like artifacts and all this stuff. There's so much to this game, but it's also this tiny little box.
Yep.
And so like
Claim 1 and 2 fit in the tiniest of boxes.
We have all of it into like 3 of those small little boxes, just rubber band together.
Put them in your pocket.
I love Claim. I think it's so much fun. We haven't even played with like all of it because there's so many factions now. But it's like you can just like mix and match the factions however you want. Yep. And I think the game itself would have been interesting just on its own. But when you add in the factions and how they work, it just makes the game so much more interesting. I think it's outstanding. It's got art by the Miko, so it's got really good art too. Yep. Art that like didn't need to be this good, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
but it adds to it. It's really fun.
Like,
yeah,
it's just great. I love Claim. I'm always very, very like the crew will get played infinitely more than Claim. But Claim just has this weird place in my heart.
And then it pulls off 2-player trick taking, which is always cool.
Which is always tough. And so I love Claim. I think it's outstanding. And that is my number 25. Mike, we're about to go to the top quarter.
Oh man. All right. Everything before,
trash.
Dead to us.
Dead to us.
This is the top 100 now.
Let's get 24. Number 24 for me is a game that I think prefers solo at this point as well. And this is Wingspan.
Okay, yeah.
Wingspan's pretty high up here. I love Wingspan. It's got
a great solo.
It does have a great solo. And Wingspan is a game where you are bird watchers. It's an engine building game where you're getting these different birds and you're putting them into your kind of player tableau board area in 3 different areas, either forest, grasslands, or wetlands. And whenever you do an action, each of these areas also has an action that you can do. And so the top one is going to get food. Food is how you put birds into play.
Yep.
And so you can go there and you'll put it on the rightmost space on this board that's available. And you get to do that action, but then your little piece will go down and activate all the birds in that row that can be activated. And they can do a whole bunch of different stuff. There are a billion cards in this game, and they're continually adding more because it sells like crazy.
Yes,
and so they're never going to stop. And I'm honestly okay with it. And you activate all those birds, which do a whole bunch of different stuff. And then the middle row gets you eggs. Eggs you'll lay on birds that will be worth points. And the bottom row, the wetlands row, is how you get more bird cards. And that's the game ultimately is like relatively simple. I wouldn't say it's a gateway game, but you can teach it with pretty new gamers. And this is a game where like if the theme sings with people, like I played this game with my roommate a lot, and she wasn't a huge gamer, but she loved the bird theme. And so she was like, I always say like, you can get people to try heavier games if they're really invested in the theme.
This is definitely proof to that.
And this is one of those games where this can be a gateway game if they're super into the bird theme. If they're not, I don't think it's a gateway game. But nonetheless, this game is nuts. I love it. It's a really good game. A lot of people talk about like balance issues or whatever, or like, I don't know. To me, I just want to build a big, crazy, broken bird engine and just see how it works.
There's a lot of ways to do that in this game.
There are, because you can just get these crazy synergies going with your different cards. But to me, that's the fun of the game. And I really like it solo because then I can just get into that puzzle and just try and find this crazy bird engine. And the solo works really well. You have an opponent that you're going against. You can lose, which is good in a solo game. And I really, really like Wingspan. They just came out with the Asia birds, which is also like a 1 or 2 player.
You could do it as a standalone, which I think is a great way to get into
We're about to play that
Wingspan.
one soon. We're probably going to record it here in a couple days. I'm very, very excited to try that one. And honestly, just give me more birds. Elizabeth Hargrave, just give me more birds. I just want more birds. Just give me a crazy amount of birds. I just want
birds and bird powers.
It's just, I don't know. I love the game. I think it's really, really fun. I love to just get into it and just find some weird, crazy bird engine, just see what happens. That's just what I'm about with Wingspan. It's my number 24. I really, really like it. I was surprised it was this high, but I do really, really like Wingspan
It's really great. It deserves all the praise it's gotten. My number 24 is a deduction game, a cooperative deduction game, which we have found that we quite enjoy.
We do.
It's set in the world of Wonderland, and this is called Paint the Roses.
It be good.
So this is a deduction game. We are trying to complete the Red Queen's garden before we all get killed. You know, it's very dark. We're getting our heads chopped off.
Yeah.
And the reason we know that is because literally around the edge of the board, you have your little gardeners, and the queen with a giant axe is chasing you down.
She's very, very
she's
mean.
angry. So this is a deduction game where we have all basically been told specific ways the garden needs to be built by the queen. The queen has told us each different information by her whims, and we can't talk openly about what's going on because we're just trying to keep a low profile of these gardeners. And so if it's your turn, if you're the active player, all you're going to do is add a tile of which you have 4 to choose from. You're going to add a tile to the garden, and then see if it makes any matches for your whims, and all the other players can put down little markers to say, hey, it made a match for me. These whims are basically going to show you different things. There are 4 types of color of roses that you can have. There's like yellow, pink, purple, and red.
Yep.
There's 4 different shapes of bushes, which are the 4 suits of cards. So club and spade and things like that. Every tile will have one combination of a bush shape, a suit, and a color.
Yep.
And there's different levels of whim. So you can have like an easy whim, and what you know is that will always be a color to color match. So if I have an easy whim and my match is yellow to pink, and I place a tile down that has a pink rose, and there's 3 yellow roses surrounding that are adjacent to that, I'll put down 3 markers saying that this made 3 matches for me, and then everyone else can put down any cubes if it makes a match for them, and then we talk about it openly. I can't obviously say like, this is a match for me because of blank, but people can say like, okay, 3 matches, that's interesting. You have an easy whim, there's 3 yellow and 1 red. I think the only way for this to be is that there's pink to yellow because there's 3 of those matches. Is it that? And you have to make at least 1 ask per turn of somebody's whim. Doesn't have to be the active player, but somebody's. And if you're correct, you get to move your gardeners further around the edge of the board. Whenever you stop, the queen will move and advance forward and chase you down. If ever you make an incorrect guess, the round is immediately over. The queen moves double speed. And as you go through the game, the queen starts speeding up. You start adding these little rose petals, which make her little stack, her little meeple taller, and she starts moving faster and faster to the point where at the end of the game, she's moving like 5 spaces per turn, and if you get something wrong, she moves 10. It's really hard to stay ahead of that because if I complete a whim, it might give us 3 spaces of movement. So you're just desperately trying to stay far enough ahead to complete the garden, and there's that kind of really fun table discussion about like, well, but this is a medium whim that could have a shape to shape thing or a color to color. So now there's 2 matches for a color match and a shape match. Which one do we choose? And it gets juicy from there. So really fun deduction. It's so good. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's wonderful art. It's colorful. They knocked it out of the park with this one. The production is insane. Paint the Rose is a really fun deduction game. Love it so much.
It's so simple. That's the thing, is it's so simple. All right, that's number 24. Let's get to number 23.
Number 23 continues on my block of deduction games. We've had a lot of deduction in this list. We've had a lot of deduction. This is a game similar to Nick, where I would happily just play the solo for the rest of my days. This is Turing Machine.
Oh, I thought you already talked about this.
Heck no, man.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Turing Machine is an awesome, pure deduction game.
You love Turing Machine
It's
so
so fun. All you're trying to do in this game is get a 3-number combination. You're trying to guess the right combination. All the numbers in this code are going to be numbered 1 through 5. So it could be 111, 555, or 135, or 213, or whatever. And the way you're going to get to the answer is you have an analog computer in front of you. You have these different verifiers, or basically questions you can ask of the computer to give you, similar to like Search for Planet X, it gives you the rules that the code must follow.
Yes.
So, for example, one of the verifiers might tell you simply that the blue number is either even or odd. Okay, my blue, I have 246. The blue is the first number in the code. I have 246. I go to test that verifier. Since I have a 2, I'm asking this question specifically that is blue even?
Yeah.
If I get a little check mark, then yes, this verifier is correct. Blue is even. If I get an X, I know, no, it is not correct. Blue must be odd. And from that, I can deduce what blue is not, essentially. It doesn't give you necessarily what it is, but it can tell you what it isn't. And you can deduce information from there. Sometimes the numbers will be a certain relationship to each other, that the blue number is going to be bigger than the yellow number. Okay, so if it's a 2 blue, yellow has to be 1 because that's the only way it's possible for that number to be bigger than the other one. And you're trying to basically come down to where there's only one possible clue that satisfies all the verifiers, and that is your answer. Then you can test it in an app and see, is this the correct code? Yes, it is. No, it isn't. And you can go from there. The reason I like to play this solo is kind of similar to why you like to play Search for Planet X solo. I just want to get to the answer to the puzzle. I don't care if someone beats me to it. If we were to play it competitively and someone gets the answer, my first thing is going to be like, stop, don't say a word. I still want to solve this myself because that's the satisfying part. It's not the winning the race, it's the getting the answer. So I don't need anyone else to be there
Yeah.
to get that satisfaction. And they have daily challenges that are provided by the app. There's literally millions of puzzles.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
It's really good. It's very clever.
Yeah, and
if you're curious about the game, watch Mike. Mike did a really good video. We'll put a link up here for it.
Yeah, it's
Mike
cool.
did a really good. It's very confusing to explain.
You got to see it kind of for it to work because there's these like layered cards when you make your code that have all these holes in them.
Ridiculous.
And when you layer the 3 numbers on top of each other, it creates one little circle, one little rather window.
I don't know how they do this.
And that's how you test the answers. And it's great. It's so cool that it works because it's got this great kind of toy factor, but it's also functionally a computer that doesn't require any power. It's so neat. So Turing Machine, my number 23. It's just ridiculously cool.
It's very cool. It's very cool. My number 23, Mike talked about some point. This is Fields of Arl. This is another big Uwe Rosenberg game, but this one is specifically for 1 to 2 players, which is always interesting to see, like a big game like this that's only for that player count. I think it's very, very cool. Fields of Arl is kind of his most autobiographical game, where it's a farming game. But this game is very, very interesting. It's broken up into 2 seasons, and every round of the game you're going to be in either summer or winter. And there are a whole bunch of different actions, but you can only do these actions in summer, only do these actions in winter. And so when you're on the summer side, you're putting out your workers onto the summer side, and you're doing these actions, and you are getting new tiles to put kind of on your home board. You're getting animals. You're doing lots of Uwe Rosenberg stuff.
Everything you love on the farm, man.
Everything you love on the farm. And you're like turning in, you can get like leather, and then you can upgrade that leather into like cool clothes and stuff like that. And then you can deliver that leather and all this kind of stuff. And then at the end of the round, as you go into like winter, a couple different end of round stuff is going to happen. You will get to like harvest your fields and stuff like that. And if you're going into winter, you will have to have peat. Peat is what they burn for fuel because you're going into winter. It's going to be cold. Warm. You got to feed your people classic Uwe stuff. Although feeding your people in this game is not very difficult.
No.
You just have to have a little bit of food at the end of every round, but it's not like brutal feeding your people. It's just kind of there because I just don't think Uwe has the ability to not do that.
Gotta do it.
And then you're just building out your board. Your board will have some negatives on it that you need to make sure you're covering up and dealing with. It's a lot of Uwe stuff. And someone commented on one of our previous top 100s basically saying, like, is there a point to get another Uwe game when you already have Feast for Odin? And I was kind of like, yes, because Uwe has a lot of similarities between a lot of his games, but they're all very, very different and don't feel similar.
It's kind of like a shared language between them all, but they're not carbon copies of each other.
So it's one of those things you're hearing this like, oh, there's farming, oh, you're feeding your people, oh, there's animals, oh, there's negatives on your board you got to cover up. But this game is nothing like any of his other games, in my opinion. And if you're playing like Le Havre, is nothing like Caverna. Even Caverna and like Feast for Odin are really nothing like each other. They just have, Uwe has certain vibes that he has in a lot of his games.
There's just a lot of like worker placement.
But it's just that.
It's really kind of what it is.
I love Fields of Arl. It's really, really good. It's really cool to have a 2-player only version of a big Uwe game. It's also really great solo. The solo is literally just a 2-player game with the exception of one very, very small difference. It's just really, really good. I'm not very good at the game. Mike isn't that good at it either. I'm excited for both of us to get slightly better at this game.
Someday it'll happen.
And then there's a cool expansion, apparently, which we'll get eventually. I love Fields of Arl. I think it's absolutely outstanding. And it's my number 23, big Uwe goodness.
There you go. It's hard to beat that Uwe, though.
It's hard. All right, that's 23. Let's get number 22. Number 22 is a game that I was shocked that I liked, really at all, especially this much, and this is Burn Cycle.
Yes, this has captured you big.
It has. Burn Cycle.
That's
again,
awesome.
This is kind of the list of like, these are games that I kind of prefer to play solo.
Yeah.
Burn Cycle is a game.
Like, get wrecked. I don't need you,
It's
bro.
a big chip theory game. I like the concept of a lot of chip theory games. Much more so than I like the actual gameplay of a lot of chip theory games. 'Cause a lot of chip theory games, I feel like, are kind of overly complicated. There's so many rules.
They're dense
There's
games.
so many things going on. I think they're all good. It's just a lot of times like, do I want to learn this game? Do I want to put in? And a lot of chip theory games, you have to put in time.
Yeah.
Like if you want to play like
investment.
Cloudspire, if you want to learn these factions, you gotta put in time. And I'm just usually not willing to put the time into most chip theory games because I don't have time to put into those kinds of games. But Burn Cycle is the one that I have. This is a game where you are robots, and you are staging a robot uprising, but it's not a violent robot uprising. You are just killing people in their sleep. No, but it's
The
basically
old school way.
It's a heist game. It's a
You're
sleuthing,
pulling
sneaky
information from
Yeah.
some corporation.
There's basically 3 different corporations you can play in, and then there are like 8 or 9 missions per corporation, and the board will set up differently depending on the corporation you're in.
You're always like going up into like an office building.
Usually, yeah, and you have different missions. So it might be like, hey, on this floor of the office building or whatever, you have to do these certain things. You have to unlock these certain doors or whatever, and then you move into the next floor. And the next floor, you got to break into like the CEO's office, and you got to steal this thing, and then try and get out as quick as you can. There's all these different missions you have to do of different complexities, different lengths, and stuff like that. But you're these robots, but again, you're not fighting because there's these big mechs rolling around the board, but you don't want to fight them. You can, but you generally don't. What you're trying to do is not get seen. And so it's got this this awareness system that is, again, kind of complicated, but I think it's really, really cool. Where if someone hears you or sees you, you have to leave an awareness chip behind, and then they, on their turn, are going to go investigate that
What
chip.
I hear.
And then if they then see you, they'll then come after you and try and fight you and stuff like that. But you're like breaking through walls, opening up doors, hacking into the terminal. There's like this big CEO board where you're like the CEOs and they're like,
Just like scanning
just
around.
pinging for everybody and stuff like that. There's so much going on, but every single robot you play is different. There's also a command module, which is every robot has a command module side. And this is a robot that everyone kind of controls together, and you can't let the command module die and stuff, and it's just really, really fun. I really like this game. This is, again, for whatever reason, the kind of chip theory game that grabbed me the most. I really love the theme. I like the robot uprising theme in general. I like the fact that it's a heist game and not like a violent game, because of the big kind of like robots coming and killing everybody is very cool, but I just thought it was an interesting way to go about it, being like, no, the humans are stronger than you. You are trying to sneak around and pull a heist. I just think it's cool. I really like Burn Cycle.
Heist games.
There's not that many, and that's the thing. And so, like, I love it. I think it's so much fun. This is one of those games where I want the expansions because I think I'll play through all of Burn Cycle. I just mostly play it at my place alone because I really, really like it. We just don't have much time to play it, but I love Burn Cycle. I think it's absolutely incredible.
Nice. That's our number 22s, everybody. No, 23s. I apologize. We'll go into number 22. I think.
No. I just did my 22. You have to do your 22.
Where am I?
Yeah.
Crazy Town. My number 22, everybody.
I was like, wait, I'm confused.
I got confused too. I was like, I don't know where. I thought we were on 23, man. Paladins of the West Kingdom is a great game that I have.
You did talk about your 23,
deemed
right?
22. I'm talking about 23. That's a
Okay, cool.
Turing machine.
Okay,
I got so
Paladins.
wrapped up in the world of Burn Cycle, I got my own
Makes
mainframe
sense.
that got hacked. 22 is Paladins of the West Kingdom. This is a fantastic Garfield game. You've talked about the West Kingdom trilogy.
Yeah.
Paladins is a big, beefy worker placement.
There's a lot going on.
Worker assignment game, kind of like in Orleans. We're going to need to put down multiple workers to make use of an action. And
It's an
how
action
do you
selection system.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it's
requires
weird,
more. It's
yeah.
not like a strict put one worker down. Some spaces only require one worker,
Yeah.
but you have basically your player board, which will give you various actions you can do, and you're really trying to eke out as much as you possibly can out of every round. You're trying to get as many workers as you can. You're trying to use those workers in as efficient a manner as possible to carry out these actions and really kind of focus on a couple areas of the game. Because in this game, you can do a whole bunch of different things. And it all kind of centers around modulating your player board. So one thing you can do is you can build like a wall to like protect the city and stuff. And there'll be these wall cards that go along tuck under the top of your board. So you can do that. There's these monks and these little garrisons that you can remove from your board. If you remove enough of them, they start to be worth points. And you can put them onto these little central boards to get like a little hit of resources, money or provisions or more workers, things like that. You can do the absolve action, and you can move these little blue pots over and stuff like that. You can fight these people who are attacking you. You can try to convert them instead, which will create them. They'll tuck under the bottom of your board and become kind of end game scoring conditions for you. Whole bunch of things you can do, but again,
So much stuff.
Every action's pretty expensive. A lot of them take 2 or 3 workers.
Yeah.
You might have a pool of like 6 or 7, period. So it's like, man, if I'm spending 3 workers on this action, that's like half my round right there. This had better be worth it. I better get a lot out of this. As you work on those various action types that I was saying, you'll be bumping up these kind of 3 influence markers in your strength, your influence, and your faith. You want to get those up as high as you can. And what's fun about this game is like there's so many things that kind of pull your attention.
Yeah.
But you really should try to maximize
You can't do all
on a
of them.
few
Yeah.
because you really, if you'd only get like 2 wall cards put out, it's probably not going to be worth anything for you at the end of the game. You really got to get down the line. Or if you're going to do the monks, you better do a bunch of those monks and get a lot of them out before
It's
they're
something
actually worth anything.
You have to tell people when they first play the game, it's like, you cannot do everything.
No,
Choose a couple
you're not
and
gonna
do
have enough
those.
to do.
Yeah.
There's ways you can take develop your actions essentially and take these little houses and put them on your actions, which make them cost fewer
That's
workers.
the only thing that I'm like, I'm doing this every single time.
Yeah.
Because you
know,
really
the develop
need
you got to
yeah.
do. So there's a lot of fun things, and it's just really fun to explore like the efficiency engine of it all. How do I eke out as many actions out of this round as possible? You get different townsfolk every round. The color of them will dictate which action spaces they can go to, so that matters. That's the kind of Orleans-ness of it. Certain ones need certain chits to be pulled.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really fun stuff. Paladins is big and beefy. It's a brain burner, but I really like it. That's number 22, Paladins.
That's real good. All right, let's get number 21.
Woo! My number 21 is a really fun... I guess it's sort of a race game. It's Imperial Settlers, Empires of the North specifically,
Ooh, okay, yeah.
versus Imperial
It
Settlers.
is kind of a race game, yeah.
Yeah, Empires of the North is going to be a game where you're going to be given a deck of cards that represent a certain faction that you are. So your entire, this is where it differs from kind of Imperial Settlers, your entire access to cards will be contained within your specific faction.
There's no generic deck.
There's no generic deck at all. So you're going to be playing out your different cards in your tableau, spending your resource to play out more cards, use your resources to activate those cards and things like that. And every faction has kind of a little engine within itself that you're trying to get up and running as fast as possible to reach the threshold of 25 points, which triggers the end of the game. And then, of course, you want to have the most points, including your end game scoring stuff, as possible. So the one thing that's really fun about this game is it's pretty quick. Like, especially if you're playing a 2-player game.
Almost too fast.
This game will be like maybe 4 rounds long. It's not very long.
It's 45 minutes.
Yeah,
max.
and every round will kind of similar like a Paladins of the West Kingdom. You're going to go until everyone sort of runs out of gas and chooses to pass for the round.
Yeah.
But if you have something you can do on your turn, you can play a card, or you can activate one card, or you can put one of your little action pawns on this little action board, which you can allow to sail and do things. You can do one thing and you go back and forth or around the table until everybody has passed. And again, everything comes down to like, what does this faction do? Oh, they do a bunch of things where you're storing a bunch of resources on the cards themselves.
I'll do that then.
And then eventually you're taking them off and spending them over here, which translates into points. So you're kind of just like this big bank or whatever. It's like, okay, you're going to do that. And this one over here, they're all about sailing. They can get extra ships that other people can't get. And they're trying to do a bunch of stuff and get as many islands as possible, which might give them resources, or they can kind of conquer the islands, which give them a little, once per round action they can do. All sorts of stuff like that. So this game is so fun to just get your little pack of cards and then figure out how to get them functioning so you can start hitting stuff for, turning them into points. You kind of get this little ramp up at the very end where all of a sudden you've got your resources, you've got your cards built up, and you just go, and points now.
And there's
you
like
just rush to the end.
16 factions at this point?
I
Maybe
think
20?
so. There's
like,
a solo
lot.
campaign, The Wrath of the Lighthouse, which I think is just out or coming out, which I'm so excited about because the solo is really fun. It gives you a specific timer of like you only have 3 rounds to complete this game and stuff. It's just really fun to explore those factions. The art's really kind of adorable.
Yeah.
And I love... Imperial Settlers is great too, but I love that this one is everything is contained with your one faction deck versus the mix of generic and faction stuff. It's easier to clean up and set, put down, and I just love it. Imperial Settlers, so good.
It's so good.
Empires of the North specifically, the best version.
Indeed.
Fight me in the comments.
My number 21, last one of this list. I was curious I knew this was going to be high. I thought it was going to be a little higher. But I was very curious of where it's going to land. This is Ark Nova. This is the new Ark Nova. Yeah. I was curious. When we first started playing this, I was like, dang, this... I knew it was probably my top 25 as it is.
Sure.
But I was like, this might be like top 15, maybe even top 10. I like it that much.
It's so good. I mean, like, it has absolutely dominated Board Game Geek since it came out. And I'm like, yeah, it deserves it.
I think so. I really like Ark Nova. Ark Nova is a game where you are building out a zoo. Yeah. And it essentially takes, there's nothing really like new in Ark Nova, but it takes a whole bunch of stuff from a whole bunch of different games and does it well, which I think is fine. I do not think a board game needs to bring anything new.
No.
I just think it needs to do whatever it's trying to do really well.
Execute.
I think I think the whole, like, this game brings nothing new, I think is a completely ridiculous argument. Who cares? Does it do what it's trying to do well? Great, that's all it needs. And I think Ark Nova is a perfect show of that. It's like, there's nothing new. Again, it has Rajas, the Ganges, it has the same thing where you have appeal and you have conservation. You're trying to cross those, that will end the game. It has some Terraforming Mars, although I think it gets, compared to Terraforming Mars, way too much.
Yeah, it just happens to have tags.
There's tags
really
and certain cards you can't put into play unless you have certain tags. That's literally the only similarity between Terraforming Mars. I don't get it. The action selection system is from like Civilization New Dawn.
Yep.
There's a whole bunch of different stuff where it's just, it kind of borrows from a whole bunch of stuff, but they bring it together in such a good package. Yeah. And again, you're getting these animal cards, and those animal cards will essentially give you usually appeal and or conservation. You are getting different sponsor cards, which will usually give you some kind of ongoing ability, where it's like now every time you build a large animal, which requires like a pen of like 4 or 5, you now get some extra stuff because of that. You can specialize. Like now you have one of your sponsors is like an expert in Australia. So all your Australian animals give you extra bonuses and stuff. And there are different conservation projects you can do, which could be like releasing animals back into the wild. Conservation is much stronger than...
It'll move you a lot further down the track.
Well, 4 conservation is equal to like 8 to 10 appeal. So like it's a big, big difference. And so you're essentially trying to cross your 2 tracks. I don't know. I think Ark Nova is really, really outstanding. I think it's so
we both
good.
like the idea of a zoo as a theme. Like
I love it. Planet Zoo is one of my favorite video games. I love zoos as a theme. I think it's really cool. I love that there's such a big emphasis on conservation on top of appeal, and any good zoo out there is trying to rehabilitate animals and hopefully release them in the wild.
People.
Yeah,
so this game like definitely leans in that, like I think the best qualities of zoos.
Yes.
Which for us are always really exciting to see out there in the world.
Yeah, it's cool. I just think it's great. I really, really love it. There's different maps and stuff like that, so everyone can be a little bit different in terms of like what map they're working on. I just think it's really outstanding. It took the board game world by storm. Still is, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I think it's deserved. I think it's really, really good. I was curious where it was going to land. Ended up landing at 21, just outside the top 20. But I really, really like it. That's Ark Nova.
Ark Nova. And that's our list, everybody. That is 30 to 21. We are getting into some like just beefy great games. That is our list. If you have been providing your top 10s along the way,
a lot of people have.
We really appreciate it. It's so fun to read through, see how similar, how different they are.
Trash games.
Let's get it going. We're going into our top 20 games. If you haven't jumped in now, jump in now. It's a perfect time to do it, or at least do it in your top 10. As you can see below us here is all of our patrons. Thank you so much to everyone who supports us on Patreon. It really helps us out in so many more ways than we can even say. We have extra content coming out for all of our top 10s, including for this section. We are doing our top 101 to 200 games, which will come out on YouTube, but you'll get it first on Patreon. And then we're doing our 200 to 300 games, which will only be on Patreon. So check that out. Check out additional content for all of our top 10s on our Patreon today, and it really helps support. It literally helps pay for the studio every single month.
That's what it does.
Which is what keeps us doing content. So thank you so much for that.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Again, make sure to check out Tabletop Alliance if you haven't already. We're really trying to smash our goal. It's been really cool to hear about all the different teachers that have already contacted them to get involved. It's been super, super cool. Keep it up, fam. We're really, really excited about this whole thing. And that's going to be it. That's our 30 to 21. Super excited for the top 20 games of the list. Keep an eye out. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you haven't. You know, all the stuff.
All the things. Comment. And we'll see you all in the next top 10.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much for watching that latest installment of our top 100. We are now to the top 20 games of all time. Oh my gosh, it's been a journey, but thank you for going along this one with us. We want to give a big shout out to our channel sponsors, as always, Restoration Games, Lucky Duck Games, and Board Game Geek. And want to give a big shout out to the December sponsor of the month, and this is the Supreme Padishah, Emperor of the Known Universe, Greg White. Thank you so much, Greg White. Thank you so much for ruling over our universe so well. You know, you're just omnipotent and benevolent. You're just a wonderful ruler. Praise be to the Supreme Padishah, Emperor of the Known Universe, Greg White. Gregory, thank you so much.